Is going to be a tutorial on shape layers and basic keyframe animation in After Effects. So I've already got After Effects open here, and a quick reminder that whatever area you have clicked on becomes active and is surrounded by the blue line in my case. I'm over here in the project window, and we want to start a new composition. So remember, this is the composition symbol, so we're going to click on that. And I'm going to call this shape demo. You'll see under the presets you can choose a wide variety of compressions and dimensions and frame rates. So I'm going to make this 1080 and 2997. It shows up here, which is good. I'm using that. You can set the duration here, like this is set at 15 seconds. I don't really need that much space, so I'm going to make it 10 seconds, but you can always add and subtract from your timeline once you're working. I'm going to make my background color magenta, just so we can see some more things. It usually comes up as black, but you can always change that, which I just did. And so I'm going to click on this and try to get back to my nice, some kind of magenta here. There we go. I just like it. Okay, there we go. So this is now the background for your composition. We don't have any layers at this point, so there's nothing in there. We're going to start a new layer. I'm going to go to New, and we're going to start a shape layer. And as soon as I click on that, you'll see it comes down and it appears in our timeline. But there's still really nothing there because we haven't created a shape. I'm going to come up here to our shape tool, and you'll see rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star. I'm going to do a couple things just with shapes to remind you. If you're using the ellipse tool, first thing you want to do is you always want to figure out what fill color you want in your shape. That pertains to any shape. I'll pick a nice blue on this one, and you can decide whether you want a stroke color or you don't want a stroke color. Right now there's a burnt orange kind of color for the stroke, and it's at 10 pixels. So if I draw an ellipse, you see that that's exactly what shows up, which is pretty ugly. I'm going to actually delete that, and I'm going to do a quick reminder that if you're using the ellipse tool and you want a circle, you hold down the shift key and it will constrain it to be a perfect circle. So we're going to undo that as well. If you do a an option click here, you will click through different options for your stroke, and you can actually eliminate the stroke altogether. Over here, you can do the same thing and have no fill and just have an empty box. But I want a nice blue box, except that we're using the ellipse tool, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that circle. Okay, and if I click out of it down into here somewhere and just play it, you'll see it doesn't do anything because I've only drawn the shape and I haven't animated it in any way. So before I move on, I'm going to show you a few other things about shape, different shapes. So I'm going to have to add, I deleted the whole layer. I'm going to have to put that back. Okay, I'm going to this time select the star tool, and I'm going to leave those the same, the color and the fill. And I'm going to show you that if I start drawing my star and I use my up and down arrows, my down arrows get me fewer points, and my up arrow gets me more and more points. Okay, so that may be something you're interested in as you are creating a graphic of some kind. So right now we've got a poly star. I come back down in here, and again you'll see it's not doing anything because we haven't told it to do anything yet. So let's come to our shape layer here. you can always go in. I'm right clicking right now, and I can go in and rename this and call it Polystar, so that I know which, if you put a bunch of different shapes or things onto your composition, you may need to figure out which are which. You can always make it very small if you don't need to be seeing it in the layer, but let's take a look down here at transform. This is one of the places that you can make changes that will result in the shape you've created changing over time. So right now we have this polystar shape. The little stopwatches in your layer, that's how you set a keyframe in After Effects. So I'm just going to hit opacities, stopwatch, and you'll see this is a keyframe. Okay, keyframes tell the computer what settings, tells the program, these are the settings at this moment in time. And then, so right now I'm going to dial that down to say, well, let's take it all the way down to 0. So if I play this now, there's no star because I've got the opacity set down to 0. But if I take the playhead to a different point in time and now take the opacity up to 100, you'll see another key point, another keyframe shows. And now, if you play it, you see the shape fade in. So that is essentially how animation works in After Effects. You figure out what property you want to change, and you put a keyframe at the front and set the property elements, and then you make a second keyframe that changes the properties of that element, and you then have an animation. The program puts everything, changes everything in between. So let's do another one just as an example. So actually, there's no sense in changing the position at the beginning because we can't see it anyway. So I want to start a change of position for the polystar once we get to 100% opacity. So I need to go to this keyframe, and one way to navigate to keyframes is to use the little triangles that are next to them over here. So that takes me to the 100% keyframe, and I'm just going to say here that I'm setting the position as it is. I'm going to come down the timeline a little ways, and now I'm going to change this position. And, whoops, sorry. You need to be on the select tool if you want to use this too. So this is going to be a falling star. Okay, so if I then play it, you'll see that now the star changes position. And it will continue to play and loop as long as you don't stop it by hitting the space bar. Okay, so again, the method is you set a key point, a keyframe, which tells it the, where you want that particular element. I call them elements: position, anchor point, scale. So scale would affect the size of the star. So let's well, quickly go back here. As it's shooting down, I'm going to have it change size. So I'm going to say it's that size to start with. I'm going to go to the last keyframe, and I'm just going to make it bigger. Okay, so now you'll see on the scale line, we've got 2 keyframes. We've got 2 keyframes on position, and we've got 2 keyframes here on opacity. So let's just take a quick look here. The opacity comes all the way in, then it starts to grow and come down down the frame. Okay, so essentially now I'm just going to go to the, I really don't love that the position at the very end isn't all the way here. So I can just go ahead and change that. We'll just leave it even a little off. You can make it go off frame if you want to. Um, but I'm going to fade that in. And now it starts to move. And it stops where I wanted it to stop. So a couple things, you can move keyframes and it will give you longer or shorter effects as they go. So you've taken a look at shapes here, how to draw them with multi-sided shapes. I'm going to just hit the rectangle here, and actually as I'm doing that, if I hit the shift, it also constrains it to be a perfect square. So just to play around with the shapes. If you're doing the poly star down here, the star, you can increase the number of points. I'm using a polygon right now, and I believe if I use the down, I can go to a triangle, I can go up to pentagons, hexagons. So the polygon tool, you can impact the number of sides by going up and down with your up and down arrow. Okay, I hope that was helpful, and it's just basic keyframe animation. You put one keyframe where you want the changes to start, and you set the dimensions or the elements of that, and then you go to where you want the effect to end, and you change the information, and the program will do the rest. Okay, let's end this one.